Okay. Hi, David. It's so nice to meet you. My name is Destiny. I'm a legal assistant here with the Migrant Center this summer. Just watched your films, and they're amazing. They're very powerful. Can you tell me a little bit about how you began on this path as a filmmaker who focuses on migrant stories?
We've been doing it for so long, so I almost don't remember how we started. But our cooperation, the work I've been doing in Hannah since 99, 98, 99, something like that. We started. It's such a long story, but it was a family from Sudan in Sweden that were living in hiding. And one of the daughters in the family has disappeared, and she's never been found. And this happened when they were living in hiding in dark, actually wood that was in a forest that was quite scary, actually, in the southern part of Sweden. And we started to investigate that with the thought. I was a bit at that time wanted to do something else than documentary filmmaking, because I've been doing so much documentaries and I wanted to see if we could do some fiction out of it, but we couldn't leave the story. The story was so, I don't know, we were so touched by the family and the story and so on. So it ended up doing a radio documentary. And at doing that radio documentary, we also wanted to meet children living in hiding in the sort of same situation as Mariam, the girl that disappeared. So we met a couple of children that were living in hiding, and one of those were Giancarlo from the film Hidden. That interview with Giancarlo and his mother, father, and brother didn't end up in the radio documentary, but I got an idea that I wanted to make it, because it was so, he expressed it so well, how it was. One part of it was also that he was so fluent in Swedish, so he was just like any kid here, and living under those circumstances, and also trying to commit suicide because of the circumstances he was living under. So I had an idea to make his, using that sound from that first meeting and first interview, and combine it with animated characters, animated pictures, images. And then that started, and it was really complicated to make animation and to find like character design that would fit well with the feeling we wanted to portray. But then the designer Mats Johansson made the design, and we found, after a long time, we found the animator who did the animation and so on. And that work continued in Slaves and also with Sharaf. With Slaves, it was a bit different. We were actually supposed to meet someone else, and then we met because there was this humanitarian prize that was given out in Sweden, that was every year for it's children all over the world, that they vote for someone who works for children causes and can be anywhere. And and that at that year, James Aguirre from Southern Sudan won the prize for his and his organization's work with abducted children. And they were in Sweden, James and Abuk and Maciek, and we met them and made an interview. It took 2-3 years after we made that interview, before we decided to make a film out of that. Mm-hmm. And so it's a long story, and it goes into sort of one project gives the other one, and so on. but it's always because we're engaged in the question, the sort of political aspect of the question about human rights and children. Those, I mean, we made also films not only about children, but in those circumstances, living in those circumstances. But the animations have been rich. But our current work is about. It's more experimental in the form of the animation. It's not character-driven animation, but it's about the detention of migrants in Sweden, in the States, and it's more globally, and also trying to explore the economic interest around the detention of migrants.
Mm-hmm.
We've been working with that for a long time.
Yeah,
it was a long
time. It's very interesting. So how would you say that animation is able to convey the type of story that you're trying to tell better than another format?
I mean, you could say it's very like simple. Those three films. You're not showing Unkill, no? You're showing the Hidden, Sharaf, and Slaves? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. With those three films, yeah, it's like very, how do you say, traditional interviews in a way. So by and it's also a method to use only sound recorder. It's much less intimidating. It's more intimate in a way. So that sort of we liked, and it's also easier technically than having a camera. You have to think about much more things. Mm-hmm. So it creates a sort of a more intimate situations. That is nice. But then to choose animation, it's like you heighten you both simplify the character or the story. You can sort of take away a lot of unnecessary things and focus on the voice. So I think that as an audience, we were not sure that would work when the first film, when we made Hidden, because that was like, it almost hadn't been done before. Something similar, Aardman Animation did in the 80s, like clay animation stop motion clay animation out of some interviews. That's the closest thing that was made like that before us, I think. So we were not sure that it would work, and also that like animation usually are made like either it's like slapstick like Walt Disney, or it's entertainment for kids, or entertainment. It's maybe you would experience it in a way that would not work with the seriousness of the subject. I mean, we didn't think so, but there was a risk for that. So I think when it works like you can concentrate because of the simplification of the form. You can concentrate more as an audience. I hope, and I think, and the sound becomes so. You sort of hear every breath almost. So, yeah. And when after Hidden, we thought, okay, this worked actually. So we want to continue and we want to take it further. So explore that form.
Yeah, I think it definitely worked in terms of, like you said, simplifying it so that you could focus on the right things. So for these stories that you focused on, why did you choose these stories? I know that you said earlier that kind of one story led to the next, but I'm sure that you heard many stories in between. So why focus on these?
You mean specifically on Giancarlo and Abok Macek and Sharaf?
Yes.
It's hard to say. You sort of feel it when you're in the room, that even if you don't know the language, you can feel there's something special, and that there's something that that person, it could be an adult, a kid, a child, it doesn't matter really, but they have a gift for putting words on their situation in a way that is unique, and also that makes you understand how it is, sort of how it is living, a part of it, not all, but you get an insight to how their life is, and that's a gift, I think. I mean, some people have that, and you sort of feel, I mean, with Sharaf, we felt it, even if I mean, I know some Spanish, but he didn't know so well Spanish either, because he was from Morocco, so Spanish, but you could all, I mean, even if you don't understand the language, you can feel it. Because in those situations, you have a translator in both those situations.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, but I'm just, I don't know if that's enough. I mean, there are many other reasons, but I think that's the main reason. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's the reason why we meet, why we seek it up. That's those specific stories. That's more a question of you can't not do.
Mm-hmm. And what other commonalities did you find in these stories, besides the fact that these children just had a gift in sharing their stories? Or what commonalities would you like the audience to see in these stories?
What do you mean by commonality?
Just a central theme running through these projects.
I mean, common traits, or like?
Yeah.
I'm just not sure the word commonality. Yeah. You mean from each story to the from?
Yes.
In a way, we want to take some. I don't know if that's an answer, but we want to take things further, or both in like form and especially maybe form, because the themes are usually the same, but so we seek a new form for each film, sort of, even if we want to have the same touch. But I think that's something that it's our approach, and that you can feel it's the same people behind, and I even if the style is a bit different. And so the project we do now is more abstract in form. I still think you can feel it's the same people behind, and that we have the same approach. But what's different with this film, it's a longer format, supposed to be anyway. And even if we were planning to we made one chapter as a short film. Maybe we'll make other chapters as short films before we put it together to make a film. But in that case, we want to have a more, not only the personal story, but also the more investigative side of it, investigating the detention centers and how they are run in different countries. I mean, especially they are mostly privatized in the States. I think maybe in the States and Australia is where it's gone further. But also in the UK. So, and it's probably happening in other countries also. So Sweden we are exploring Sweden, of course. UK, we've been making a lot of research there. We started to make research in the States, and we're going to make research in Australia also. It's a bit more complicated because it's so far away. So it's just a question of, especially now when you can't travel. We actually plan to come to Texas now or this spring, but it was not possible.
Oh, that's too bad. Can you tell me what type of audience or what groups you intended these films for, and what type of message you really hoped that they would gather from watching them.
In a way, you want to reach another audience that is sort of the usual audience for documentary films. You want to sort of that. I hope we did a little bit by those, because they were screened actually in many different places around the world and in different circumstances. So maybe we did a little bit in a way with those films. It's hard usually to find the other audience that is not, also to get people that usually don't watch this kind of films to get another insight into the life of others. That's not so easy actually. The easy thing is to get the normal, like people that are interested anyway in the subjects, in the form. But I think what happened with those films, the animated films, is that people interested in animation suddenly got an eye opener for another other subjects than they usually watch. And also watch mostly like traditional documentaries, like live action documentaries. Maybe got an interest in other forms of expression like animation.
Mm-hmm.
So that I hope those did that, and I think they did to a certain degree. I mean.
Yeah, I think the films are certainly all-encompassing and something that a lot of people could enjoy or learn from. Can you tell me, making these animated documentaries, what was one of the most difficult parts of the process, and also what did you find to be the most enjoyable?
The most difficult with those three are, of course, the actual animation production, because it's so complicated and takes such a long time. You have to seek up the right people, and sometimes it doesn't work. You fail sort of, and you have to find a form and so on. That is exciting, but it takes a lot of time, and it's in a way the opposite from making documentaries, the whole production situation, because you have to be animators asking for how are they moving their head, and you can't change that. You already said that the character moves its head like that, and we say, but we want to have it like this and that. We have to be able to change things during the process. So it's been has been a real hard struggle. Now, when we're doing this more experimental form of abstract animation, we are more hands-on by ourselves. So that's actually more fun. Suddenly, that animation process became fun in a way than it was when you have to have a lot of people, specialists, doing it for you. That is much harder. You have to explain so much, and you have to, yeah, and it's very time consuming, expensive.
It sounds like a really in-depth project, and I was personally very impressed by it.
Thanks.
Can you tell me, lastly, what do you hope the international community can learn from these films and can try to build upon and improve?
That's a hard question. I mean, you always have very high ambitions with your films. You want to change the world, but they seldom change so much, unfortunately. So, yeah, we want to change the world, but we can all see that it's difficult to do. So, it's humans. I mean, maybe that it's humans behind all these kind of stories that are told in the news. All the time you hear these stories, that you almost become immune to them. So I hope that those films, our films, can sort of when your senses up again, sort of. That's our ambition, I think.
Yeah, that's a very, very, I think, admirable ambition, and I think that it was definitely something that was achieved because this was definitely a new kind of way to look at these stories, I think. So thank you for talking to me today. Is there anything else that you want to tell the audience before we start the screening?
No, just I hope you enjoy them. You can email us if you have questions and stuff. Maybe you can email you first, and then you can send it to us. Or...
Definitely. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
I hope you
you.
have a great day.
Thank you.
Goodbye.